Good afternoon everybody, welcome to another computer tutorial. Today we're going to be demonstrating quad booting in legacy mode. So on my past tutorial I did it with GPT and a UEFI. So now we're going to look at quad booting and how I set it up using the how can I say it? We're going to be quad booting using the older style MBR Master Boot Record Legacy. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we've got an HP laptop. It's an old one, a few years old. It's got Windows 8.1. It's got Windows 10. It's got Ubuntu Studio, but instead of Android, it's got Android, but it's a remix version of Android. While I was sort of testing and before I'd done this video, I tried to do a similar setup to the UEFI setup, but it didn't work properly, so I had to make a few compromises, but I got it to work. So let's turn it on. So when you first turn it on, you're greeted with the Ubuntu Studio. So I've showed you Ubuntu Studio, so we'll launch it just to prove to you it works. So this is Ubuntu Studio. So this is the first operating system, because we're using the when you first turn this on, you use the Ubuntu grub loader. That's actually what boots up first. So since we're using the grub loader first, we'll boot up the Ubuntu operating system. So this is Ubuntu Studio. Pretty good computer for a dual core 2 gig RAM computer. Not the best sort of computer for, like, I'd say for light things it's alright and similar things, but it does got its drawbacks. But in this case we're just demonstrating booting. So let me just log in. So this is Ubuntu Studio. So this is what I use for music, video and graphical design. Just logging in. And there we have it. We have Ubuntu Studio. So this is the full Ubuntu Studio. It's fully installed. So if we go to the menu up the top here, there we go. Got all the things. I've still got to do the updates, but this is just the first operating system. So we want to restart. Okay, so that's Ubuntu Studio. Cool. So that's the first operating system. So now we're going to launch the second operating system, which is Windows. So let's go into the Windows. Oh, a bit blurry. Actually a bit blurry. There we go, that's a bit better. So now we've got 3 operating systems here. So we've got, excuse me, got Windows 8, excuse me, Windows 10. We've got Remix OS. So for Windows 8, this is my main operating system. Demonstrating Windows 8. And I will demonstrate the partition table when I do. Excuse me. So here's Windows 8.1. This is the same version of Windows 8.1 Super Light Edition that I put on my other computer. So the same thing. This is the main operating system I use on this laptop. This is my DJ laptop. This is the one that actually goes out. So yep, this is Windows 8.1. Lovely. Ooh, I just shut it down, but that's alright. So that's the second operating system. Okay, the third operating system I'm going to show you now is Windows 10. So I'm just waiting for it to shut down. There we go. Turn it back on. Go back to Windows, bootloader. So it's going to launch Windows 8.1 first. So now we're going to scroll down to Windows 10. It's going to reboot the computer. when it will. There we go. So that's rebooting. It'll bring up the Ubuntu thing again. Go back to the Windows. And now it's booting up Windows 10. So this is the same version of Windows 10 that you saw on the other computer when I did the last tutorial. Oh, it's doing a disk check. It's doing a disk check. It must be must have found errors in the thing. So I'll just pause this video, and then once it's finished doing its thing check, I will come back to it. So here we are, it just finished doing its thing, now it's booting up. Just finished doing its scanning the drive for errors, but it must have not found any because it didn't reboot. So now, there we go, now here's the Windows 10. This is the third operating system. So the reason why I'm doing this is because, you know, just to give the computer more potential than it originally had. Because this, when I first got it, it had Windows 8.1 stock firmware, but once I've modified it, now we've got Windows 10 8.1 Lite Edition, Ubuntu Studio, and we also got a bit of Remix OS for Android. So this is Windows 10. There we go, you got the Windows 10 menus. Same thing, Serato works on this because this is the DJ thing, so Serato doesn't work on Windows 8.1. It only works on 10. So now I'm going to boot out of this operating system. And we are going to go to Remix. So I've just installed Remix. So when we do boot it up, it'll set everything up because I literally just installed it not long ago. So now we're going to launch Remix. Oh, now it's coming up with this bootloader. Okay. So now we are launching Remix. So just let it do its thing. There we go, it's finding Android. So now it is formatting the data partition on, because as I said, I've just installed Remix OS. So what it's doing now is it's going to, it's formatting the data partition because it's got a, how I've installed this one, and I'll probably explain it when I get it, but I actually installed this on the same partition as Windows 8.1. So even though it's another operating system, I installed it on the same partition as 8.1. So I'll pause it again because it's formatting the data partition, and once it's formatted the data partition, we'll resume. And it's just finished. It's just doing it now. So it's just formatting the data partition. So actually, well, I might as well get into it while it's booting up. Formatting the data partition, that's actually a misconception because it wasn't actually formatting a partition. Per se, it was actually formatting a file, a data partition file. So even though it was saying formatting data partition, please wait, it was actually formatting a file. So there's a file which is about 32 gigs large, which represents the data partition for Remix. So that's how it works. So it's a bit of a misconception when it was talking about formatting data partition, because technically it's not actually formatting a partition, it's actually formatting a file. So yep, but this is the Remix OS loading screen. So I've just installed it, so I've done nothing to it. I've actually done stuff to my other operating systems, but as for this one, I've just freshly installed it. So it's just setting it up. It'll take a while for first boot when you first set these up. It's just only because it's got to build all the the files and all that in the database for Remix. So usually it wouldn't take this long booting into Remix, but as I said, the first time. So yeah, this is the 4th operating system. So this is a quad boot computer now. Having Remix OS on here, I actually sort of cheated, because how this is actually installed is this is actually installed as a program on Windows. So you can actually uninstall Remix OS, which I won't, because I actually want to keep this as a quad boot system. But I've actually installed it as a program on Windows. So you do an installation on Windows, choose the drive letter, which in this one was 8.1C, Light C. And you can choose when you go to next, or when you go to create, it asks you how much space do you want to allocate to Remix. So it'll either ask you for 8 gigs, 16 gigs, or 32 recommended. So I went with the highest one, which is 32 gigs. That's why it took a little bit longer to format, because it was a 32 gig file I had to format. So even though it's a, as I said, like it's a file, but technically it's taking up 32 gigs on the hard drive. But when I go to write files using Remix or save files, it'll actually save it to that file, which represents the data partition. So yep, that's how it all works. So it's just still rebuilding the file base. I don't know how long it's actually got to go. It's taking its time. So what I'm going to do is I'll pause it again until we come to the next screen. So after a bit of loading, which took a while, we have the Remix. This is the Remix OS boot screen. So now it just says select your language. So we want to go, obviously we want to go English. User agreement, I agree. So we want to go to I agree. It's just the user agreement. So Wi-Fi selection. Oh, we're going to skip this. We're going to skip this. We want to skip this if we can. So there we go. So you go skip. So we want to untick that. Okay. So now it is setting it up. So this is the 4th operating system. This is Remix OS. This is running Android Marshmallow. So a few things back. I'm not too sure how good the Play Store is on this one, but I think this one has a third-party Play Store. So I don't think this actually has Play Store, which is fine, because for this case, this is a Android that I'm going to be using for my gaming. So yep, this is Remix OS. Works all good. The 4th operating system. So now, if we want to go to reboot, and I'll show you the partition table. So we want to go to restart. Yes. So it's just rebooting. Shouldn't take too long. Let's restart. Here we go. So now we're going to go into 8.1. 8.1. And I'll show you the partition table I use. I'll show you how I set it up. I'll show you what operating systems I put on first, second, third, and fourth. So yeah, this is pretty much the quad boot, and this is using legacy and MBR rather than GPT and UEFI. So this is a slightly older machine, but it still does the job. So just let me log back into the Windows 8.1. Oops, I think I got the password wrong. Yes, I did. Hang on, just put you down, because it's hard to do it with one hand, especially when you have touch typing skills. So we're back into Windows 8. So we're going to use disk management, just like I showed you with the GPT. So we're going to go manage. We're going to go to disk management. So this is the partitioning scheme. Yeah, it's sort of similar to the one you've seen before, but this is a master boot record partition table rather than a GUID partition table. So this is a master boot record partition scheme. So the first partition we got is the system reserve. So this is the EFI partition here. So this holds the grub loader for Ubuntu Studio. So this one here is Ubuntu Studio. We've got the swap partition, so that's ext3. This is the Android partition, but this one is actually is invalid because Remix is actually on the Windows 8 partition, which is here. So this has got Windows 8 and Remix, and Windows 10 has its own partition. So what I'm going to do is, after this tutorial, I'm actually going to use this N partition as a data partition for sharing files between 8 and 10. So yeah, so this is the this is the partitioning scheme. So you've got the system reserve, that's got the boot grub files on it for Ubuntu Studio and all that, 8.1, 10. You've also got your Ubuntu Studio, the swap partition, because this is only 2 gigs, so I swapped it about 4 point something. Just double the size, and we're going to use that last primary partition as a data partition. So yes, this is demonstrating quad booting using the old school legacy MBR, rather than how on my last tutorial I used the GPT, newer school GPT UEFI partitioning scheme, and also UEFI BIOS. This is using a DOS base drive, which is MBR, and using legacy booting. So until next time, this is you've been listening to Robbie T. As I said before, I'm not responsible if you do any damage to your one, if you try to copy what I've done. So just before I go, I installed Windows 8 first. So Windows 8 was the primary OS I installed first, which is the one you see. Windows 10 was the next one I installed. So that's when I had first partition the tape, and then I'd made a partition for Windows 10, installed that. Ubuntu Studio, I installed that third because that's what represents the grub. And the Remix I installed just before, as I said, because when you install Remix, it actually modifies the Windows bootloader, not the Ubuntu grub loader. So that's how I got this baby to quad boot. Was a bit touchy at start, but I got it to go. So without further ado, hopefully you have a good day. You've been listening to Robbie T, and this is demonstrating quad booting using MBR legacy old school BIOS. So you have a good day and good night, and until next time, cheer cheer.